What is going on, everyone? It's your boy DJ House with WQTS Digital Radio, and we got in the building this evening. He's running for District Attorney in Durham. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Wilson. How you doing, man?
Man, good evening, man. I'm doing great, DJ House, man. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to come on here and discuss some of the reasons why I'm running and my platform and why I think Durham needs to change and why I think I'd be the best candidate.
Why are you running for District Attorney?
Durham is in desperate need of immediate change. And there are three things that need to happen. Violent crime is on an incredible high rate. And where we're going right now, we can break a record if we continue down this pace with murders, firearm offenses, and shooting incidents. But also victims as well. We need to connect more with the victims, need to repair those relationships with the victims and the aggrieved persons that live here in Durham. And third, the vulnerable ones who live here in Durham, which is those who are struggling with mental health issues, drug addiction issues, but most importantly, our juveniles. I think we need to be more attentive to their needs and try to make sure that we don't continue the school to prison pipeline, but at least kind of nip that in the bud before they get there. I mean, there's a lot of things that's going on. And I mean, originally I'm a criminal defense attorney. And so I see things from a different viewpoint. And for me to sit there and just look at it I'm originally looking at it from the sidelines, for me to kind of say, nah, something needs to change. This is getting out of control. And seeing cases being dismissed because victims aren't being notified about court dates. Or I have victims who I represent in other matters call me asking me when the defendants cases are set for. That's a problem. And it means to show me there's a miscommunication between the district attorney's office and the victims and the people of Durham. And I think there needs to be a change and it needs to happen immediately. If not, I think it can get worse.
Yeah, I believe we definitely need to change. What qualities are important for a district attorney to have?
Well, I think you need to have experience in the actual criminal law aspect. I think you need to be able to have the ability to try cases. You need to know how procedure goes. Most importantly, you need to be able to listen to people and be attentive to their needs and willing to be a servant. I've been active in community service all my life, singing in the choir when I was growing up in church, participating in the Boy Scouts all the way up to now where I coach Special Olympics. So I've always been a servant to the community and I've always been a servant to the people that are around and trying to benefit them and help them and not do it for my own self-righteous purposes, but doing it for the betterment of the community. And so you need to have that ability to kind of relate to the people that you're going to be serving. And in the way that I was brought up, I have that ability to sit there and go to any room that you want me to go to, courtroom, put me in the gym, whatever you want me to do, I can sit here and talk to anybody. You have to be able to be relatable.
If you can fix the issues in Durham within 24 hours, what would it be?
Violent crime, education, and poverty/housing. That's what I would want to change. From what I've seen, I've been here since 2006, practicing law since 2010. And I've seen Durham progressively get worse. And a lot of people say that, well, it's because of poverty. And I'm like, well, you have to look at other things besides that. I think the root to poverty is poor education. And we don't have truancy court right now in Durham. And because of that, kids need to be in schools and not in the streets. And they don't need to be in the courthouse. They don't need to be in the courtrooms. They need to be in school, getting an education. So we have to make sure we stay on top of that and make sure they get that education. Because if they don't get a good education, they're going to probably live in poverty, which is problematic. But the housing issue as well is a bit of a problem out here as well. I mean, it's getting expensive to live out here in Durham. But the three things that I wish I could change in Durham, as far as just being a citizen, is violent crime and trying to get the education system better, but also poverty/the housing.
The housing market is going crazy. I'll be glad when it stops.
Yes. It's out of control.
It's definitely out of control, especially for someone out of high school or someone just graduated from college.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my goodness, the rents and the mortgages, you can't even afford it.
When I first moved out here in 2006 for law school, my rent was like $400, and it was for a single bedroom apartment. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh man, this is great. And it was right over there by South Point. I was like, this is going to work. And then all of a sudden, like my third year, it went from $450 to $700, and I was kind of like, yeah, no, this is trending the wrong way. And then just me raising a family, I've got a 9-month-old daughter now, and so my wife is thinking about, hey, maybe we want to look for other houses, and looking around, and houses that are smaller than the house we currently live in now cost $200,000 more than the one we reside in. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So we got to get this, something has to get under control somehow, some way.
Yeah, I guess we got to put our moves on hold for now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we got this. I guess it's the Lord telling me to sit still. So, because it's too expensive to go elsewhere.
If protesters were outside on your property, tried to influence you for a case, how would you handle that?
It's a good question. First, I would appreciate them. I applaud them for exercising their, First Amendment right. That's always something that people need to appreciate and use. But when it comes down to protesters, I think if you're in a position of leadership, not everyone is going to be happy with everything that you do. And I think that kind of comes with the territory. But you can't ignore them. So what you can always do is listen to what they're saying and bring them to the table and actually have a conversation and a discussion about seeing what can be done so we can kind of reach a level ground. I'm not going to say that I'm going to have protesters sway me and make them change my mind. Like, as a leader, you have to sit there and hold a stance and stay firm to your decisions and and be accountable for your decisions at the same time. But you still want to hear what they have to say and make them feel like their voices are being heard, because that way you can see where position they're coming from and you can better understand what's going on. And maybe you can try to use some of the things that they're trying to say to kind of make whatever your decisions or whatever way you want things to go to kind of work for the betterment of the good. It's not about what I want. It's going to be about what's right for Durham. And that's what we have to strive for. It's like, what's the best for Durham, not anything for my own self-gain.
What's the difference between you and your competitor?
I have more criminal trial experience. That's one of the bigger differences between us. I'm more available. I've been in that courthouse ever since 2010. Like, I've been doing criminal law. I've tried every type of case you can, from first degree murder all the way down to traffic matters. That's the big glaring difference between the two of us. I mean, which is wild because she's the incumbent. And so you would think that someone being the incumbent, they would have more experience than you, especially someone that was barred before you. I think she was barred back in the 90s. She had a very limited amount of criminal practice at that time before going to administrative work. But I have the experience. I've been in the community. I've talked to the people, and I'm a trial attorney that's willing to fight for Durham and fight for justice and like just balance things out. I'm not trying to push any type of extreme ideas, but I want to make sure we can do what's best and what's right for Durham. So it's my experience is the big difference.
Are there any cases that your competitor ruled on that made you go, wait a minute, that wasn't the right decision?
I can't speak on certain pending cases because some of them are resolved, but I know there's some cases where there were offers that were made where it was a bit of a head scratcher moment. I mean, for example, where there was the Mohar trial that happened maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, where Mohar had been charged with killing a man by the name of Tirvan, if it's his last name. Essentially, it was a bar fight. And originally, the young man was charged with first degree murder, and then it went from first degree murder to maybe second degree murder, and that's what they tried him on. And the decision to try him on second degree murder was, in my opinion, wasn't the correct decision, because if you've got any type of experience, you would have probably assessed the case from the beginning. And I think this is something that the defense attorney said that they believe they were over prosecuting, was you would have looked at those set of facts and you would have said, this is not a second degree murder. And you would have been able to see right off the bat that it was manslaughter, unless there was other evidence. And that case ended up being a complete, utter mess. And I felt really bad for the families because they had to sit there and endure all that. And they lost one. They lost their brother. They lost their son. They lost their father. And what ended up happening was Mohar ended up getting only like 9 months. And
murder?
So he ended up taking a plea for manslaughter. And so he only has to, I want to say he has to do only about 9 months left for a sentence.
Oh, man.
So that can be very disheartening for a family when, second degree murder is on the table and someone's looking at 10 plus years. They didn't here a few months. And so it was very disheartening. And the family they actually called me, and I told them, I was like, I don't want to politicize your brother's death, but I mean, that is unacceptable. And I mean, there are other cases that are going on now where there have been a couple of motions for appropriate relief, which is essentially just like rewriting history. And this has actually made the news. And this is what's problematic, is that the reason why people have to actually do the research. I understand the purpose of what she was trying to do as far as trying to modify a lot of these old, ultra punitive sentences. But one of the things you have to do is you have to communicate with the victims who were involved in those cases. So they can have an idea about what's going on and understand it, and you can kind of take their input. And there were 4 cases where that didn't happen. There was a murder case and they found out on Facebook. And there was a young lady who was a victim of rape. She found out from the reporter. Like, it should not be that way. Like, that's the heart. Like, I feel bad for them. So that's some of the things that, that I've seen that I can't just sit idly by for. And that's some of the things that need to change. There are some sentences where you're kind of like, look, that doesn't fit the crime. Or, someone going to prison for 75 years it's a bit much. But at the same time, if you're going to go that route, you have to notify people as to what's going on. And you can't just leave. You can't have victims find out just on social media or from some random stranger saying, hey, I'm a reporter from the blah, blah, blah. That's a problem.
Yeah, that almost feels like a smack in the face.
It is. I mean, the headline on the report was, I felt like my voice wasn't heard. Like, that's heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking. And I've had people that I've never talked to reach out and call me and say, look, I don't know what's going on with my case, or, I don't understand why they don't want to proceed on this. No one's returning my phone calls from the DA's office. I've got a young lady who was a victim of an ultra violent crime where essentially someone kicked in the door and started shooting in her house. And the first time she talked to the district attorney was 2 months after the young man had been charged. And law enforcement was the one who told her about the court date. It wasn't the DA's office. So if you're a victim of something like that violent of a crime, like, you want somebody that you know is going to be fighting for you, that's going to, that's going to supposed to be representing the community and representing you as a victim. Like, you want them to at least reach out to you and so you can feel comfortable and understand what's going on with the system.
What's causing that disconnect?
I don't know. We were at a forum the other night and they asked what we would do in the first 90 days of taking office. And I said I would check inventory. And when I mean check inventory, I mean like staff. I'm not talking about papers or anything else. I'm talking about the staff. And I would say, this is where we got to see where we're lacking and where we have an excess of. And I think we need to divert more people to victim services. We need to have more legal assistance for the district attorneys. I know for a fact that whenever we get into, any type of case where it comes down to getting discovery, instead of I'm going to ask for discovery, and the legal assistance office is just swarmed with discovery because he or she is the only assistant for 4 DAs. And that's going to slow the process down. So you have to ask, it's tough. I mean, that's the tough part about it is it's whatever budget that you get from the state. So essentially going down to Raleigh and going to the General Assembly and saying, look, I can't actively help my people here if I don't have adequate enough staff. And and at the same time, me being the administrator, I have to be able to put people in the right positions so that they can do their job effectively and make sure that people feel actively represented. Election is tomorrow, it's the primary. So there won't be another election after this. There'll be the general election in November, but I won't be going up against any competition if I'm successful on May 17th tomorrow. It's between myself and the incumbent. And if you look at the actual voter ballot, you're going to see a third person's name. His name is Daniel Meyer. He actually suspended his campaign and endorsed me. And that's because he himself sees that things are bigger than just your own self purposes. You see that this has to be for Durham. And people are seeing that we're not in the right direction. So we're not heading in the right direction. It's getting worse. And we can't sit here and try to push some national agenda that applies in other places in Philly, Chicago, California, wherever, and try to use it in Durham, because Durham is a very unique place. Like, we have to do what is necessary and what's right for Durham. So it's just getting my name, my stance, my platform, my views, because we really need this change and need this to happen immediately. And tomorrow's the day. I know it's kind of last minute, but tomorrow is the day, and it's a big day. And Durham deserves better than what it has right now. And it's be my commitment to make sure that I'm going to make it's going to get better. And I want the people of Durham to hold me accountable. If not, and at the same time, like, come find me. I'll be at that courthouse. I'll be there, like, I'll be there, and I'll also be there in the community as well. So it's something where it has to be a collective, collaborative effort. Like, you got to work with the community, work with the mayor, work with the law enforcement, Burkhead and Andrews, work with county commissioners, work with city councilmen, work with the board, the school board, work with the PACs as far as partners against crime, meet with the congregation, clergy. Just do whatever you can. Bring everybody to the table. Sit there and see what we can do, instead of saying that this narrative of, oh, well, you can't prosecute violent crime away. All right, that's fine. That's all fine and dandy. Yeah, that's okay. You can't, but let's be proactive. Like, what can we do? Let's bring people to the table who can come up with ideas so that we can try to make Durham safe again, and try to make it a safe place to be. And then also just make sure that justice is done. And it goes both ways. It's not just for victims or for the defendants. That's where it's the balance in that. That's what the scales of justice is for. It's to balance and weigh things and make sure things are done fairly and appropriately. So that's what I'm about.
I like to work with you to get the word out on these type of issues, to keep people informed.
I feel really good about this. I'm being willing to help out as much as I can. I'm active. I'm the vice president for teen court. And so I remember the first night I ever did teen court, the kids came in there, they try to get an understanding about what's going on. And I explained to them, like, look, I represent a lot of people who have done a lot of violent and bad things. And you have to nip this in the bud now, because I guarantee you the sentences that they'll get 5 years down the road, they're going to be coming back saying, this, I should have listened to my mom, or I should listen to this particular person. I shouldn't have been with this crowd. Like, I'm trying to stop that before you get there. And that's what I would do as a prosecutor. Like, look, sit down, listen to me, talk to me. I got people in my family that have done things that are kind of like, man, I kind of wish I'd have just not done this or not done that. And by the time, it's a little too late. So how about we nip things in the bud early and just really pour into our youth, into the juveniles, and try to see what we can do to save them?
We definitely need some type of prevention.
Yes.
Stop it from even going to the court system altogether.
Exactly. Like, try to have more mentorship. I know there's a couple of movements. There was 100 Black men here in Durham. There's a whole bunch of other things, the Proud program, things along those lines that you can kind of do to kind of help out. But it's just getting involved and sit down and talking to them. Like, I pour into my juvenile clients all the time. I make them read. I talk to them. I say, hey, look, read this poem. The poem I always tell them to read is If by Rudyard Kipling. And I tell them, like, look, this is how life is going to be. Apply it, use it. Because if you can keep your head when all about you losing theirs and blaming on you, that's something that you have to deal with your entire life. Because there are going to be people who are always going to accuse you or blaming something on you that you had no control over, but you have to remain calm. And I have them break that poem down. I have them read. Like, if they're at the juvenile detention center, I'm like, look, they give you books to read the book. And then I want you to come in and tell me about it. Open their minds to other things. And if they say they can't read, then start them off with something small so they can kind of gradually get better. Like, I want them to be better. I want them to be better than I am. I want them to be better than their parents are. Because that's how Durham can get better. That's how Durham can grow.
Yeah, sometimes it all boils down to how you react to physical danger. What's one thing the voters don't know about you?
Sorry, I'm a new father. I have a 9-month-old daughter. I know there's a picture of her on my website. I coach Special Olympics. I've been doing that since 2007, and I love it. I coach soccer, basketball, and softball. And I'm actually the head coach for the unified team that's going down to the U.S. Olympic Games in June. Actually, in the next couple of weeks, we're going down to Orlando to participate in the Special Olympic Games. So, I mean, not too many people know how involved I am with that, but I love it because it's something I don't really, like, I don't brag about it or talk about it or boast about it because that's just, like, I love it. So I think that's one of the things that a lot of people may not know about me. I'm a head coach, and hopefully we can go down. I represent Team North Carolina. I'm the head coach for Team North Carolina. Hopefully go down and get the gold medal. And if we get the gold medal, maybe we can go off to World Games and see what happens there.
What's your website? Show some media.
Sure. My website is wilson4da.com. So that's wilson4da.com. Go check out my information. You'll see what my stance is, my platform. You'll see my bio. You'll see a picture of my wife and my beautiful daughter. Just get up there and do some research on me, and you can always find up or try to see if you can sign up last minute. I mean, like I said, tomorrow's a big day. I live my life of things happening for a reason. I think me going through this is putting me in a position so that I can better serve Durham.
Thanks for coming on with us at the station. And I wish you good luck, great success, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right, man. Thanks, man.
Thank you.